The galaxy had changed many times. Civilizations had risen and fallen. Empires of great power once stretched across the stars, but nothing lasted forever. In the present age, alien rulers controlled the galaxy. Their fleets moved through the dark, their flags flew over countless worlds, and they believed themselves the natural masters of creation. They told stories of the past, but over time those stories became myths, and myths turned into forgotten legends. Among those legends was a name that none of them truly believed anymore. Humans. The archives of the galaxy spoke of humans as a lost race. Some records claimed they were wiped out by war. Others said they destroyed themselves long ago. A few strange tales whispered that humans had once ruled the stars, long before any alien empire rose. But the aliens who now stood at the top laughed at such claims. To them, humans were nothing but shadows of the past, a bedtime story for curious minds. Far from the bustling worlds of the empires, the earth lay silent. It was not the shining cradle it once had been. The oceans were smaller, the land scarred, the skies quiet. For many thousands of years, no ship had landed there, no explorer cared to visit. Yet deep under the surface, hidden in a vault of steel and stone, something remained. It was older than the current empires, older than the fleets that now ruled. In that hidden place, lined row after row, stood massive pods of glass and metal. Within them rested the last children of Earth. The humans were not dead. They had not vanished. They had chosen sleep. A sleep so deep that time itself became a blur. Their bodies were preserved in the cold of cryo-sleep, their minds locked in silence. They had waited, not for years, not for centuries, but for ages. Waiting for a moment when the galaxy least expected them. Waiting for the time when they would rise again. In the silence of that underground chamber, a sound broke the stillness. A faint crack, like ice breaking. One of the pods lit up, a pale glow spreading across its surface. Inside, the human stirred. His eyes moved beneath closed lids. The machines that had watched over him for millennia came alive, lights blinking, old systems humming as if they had only slept as well. The glass of the pod hissed and shifted. A man took his first breath after 50,000 years. He gasped for air, his chest rising sharply as life returned to him. His eyes opened, not weak but sharp, filled with a strange light. He looked around in confusion, but there was no fear. His body, though stiff, carried strength. He stepped out slowly, his feet touching the cold floor. Around him were countless other pods, each holding another like him, each silent, each waiting. He touched the glass of the nearest pod, a woman resting inside, her face calm as if dreaming. Memories came in flashes. A world burning, leaders speaking, choices being made. He could not recall everything, but one truth echoed in his mind. They had not lost. They had not been defeated. They had chosen this. Humanity had chosen to vanish from the eyes of the galaxy. Above this chamber, on the surface of Earth, the silence was broken once again. A ship descended, small and rusted, an old scavenger vessel from a distant alien world. Its crew was searching for scraps, old machines, or anything of value to sell. They had no idea what waited below. The scavengers were thin, long-limbed creatures with sharp eyes and sharper greed. They walked the ruins, laughing at the broken stones and dead cities. To them, Earth was a graveyard, and graveyards sometimes carried treasure. Their scanners caught the faint hum of power beneath the ground. Curious, they searched until they found a hidden door, buried under rubble. With effort, they forced it open and made their way down. What they found stunned them. Rows upon rows of strange machines, silent and cold, stretching beyond sight. And in the middle of it all, one machine stood open, steam still rising. They froze when they saw the figure standing in front of it. A man. A human. The scavengers whispered among themselves. Impossible, they said. Humans were long gone. They were not real. And yet here stood one, breathing, staring at them with eyes full of fire. One of the aliens raised a weapon, his voice shaking. Stay where you are, creature. Identify yourself. The human did not move. His voice was steady, deep, and carried weight. Who are you to command me? The aliens exchanged nervous looks. Something was wrong. This was not how a lost relic of a dead race should speak. This man spoke as if he still belonged here, as if the galaxy was still his. The scavenger leader tried again, louder this time. This world belongs to us now. You are nothing but a ghost. The human stepped forward, his presence alone enough to make the aliens retreat a step. His eyes narrowed, and a faint smile touched his lips. You are wrong. This world has always been ours. And with those words, the silence of ages was broken. Humanity had awakened. The galaxy did not yet know, but the return of their true rulers had already begun. The scavengers stared at the man who now stood before them. He was different from anything they had ever seen. His skin was pale from long sleep, but his body was strong, and his eyes seemed to cut through the air like blades. For a moment, none of them spoke. They could feel something strange, something heavy in the room, as if the very air belonged to him. One of the scavengers, braver than the others, pointed his weapon directly at the human's chest. His long fingers tightened on the trigger. The man tilted his head, almost curious, but he did not step back. The scavenger leader hissed. Do not move, Relic. You are outnumbered. The human's lips curled into a small smile. Outnumbered. He repeated the word as if testing its weight. Then he shook his head. You should not measure me by numbers. Before they could react, the man moved. His hand struck the weapon, knocking it from the scavenger's grip. His movement was too fast, too sharp. The aliens stumbled backward in shock. They had never seen such speed in a creature that had only just woken from centuries of sleep. Another scavenger cried out and fired. The bright bolt of energy shot across the chamber, but the human ducked, rolled, and closed the distance in an instant. With one blow, he sent the attacker crashing into the wall. The pod beside it cracked, ice spreading across its surface. The leader growled in fear. This is impossible. Humans are weak. Humans are gone. The man's voice thundered in the chamber. You know nothing of humans. The scavengers panicked. Two of them fled toward the surface, desperate to return to their ship. The leader and one more stayed, weapons raised, hands shaking. But the human walked toward them with calm steps, not rushing, not afraid. His shadow stretched long across the chamber lights. The leader fired again, his blast striking the ground, but the man never slowed. With a swift motion, he grabbed the weapon, twisted it out of alien hands, and snapped it in two as if breaking a twig. The alien fell to his knees, trembling, his voice breaking. What are you? The man looked down at him. His answer was simple. Human. The last scavenger screamed and bolted up the stairs. His thin legs carried him fast, but his mind was filled with terror. He had to warn others. He had to tell the galaxy what he had seen. The legend was true. Humans were not gone. They were waking. Deep below, the man stood alone again. His breath was steady, his heart strong. He turned back toward the rows of pods. His hand rested on the glass of another pod, where a woman lay in silence. His memories came in fragments, but one truth was clear. Humanity had chosen this sleep together. They had trusted the future to those who would awaken first. He whispered softly, almost like a promise. I will wake you. But not yet. Not until the time is right. Above ground, the scavengers who fled reached their ship, their hands trembling as they prepared to leave Earth. Their voices shook as they spoke into the comms. We found them. We found one. A human. Alive. The words carried fear. They knew what it meant. The galaxy would not believe at first. Many would laugh. But others, the old ones, the ancient families of aliens who still remembered fragments of history, they would not laugh. They would tremble. The ship lifted off into the sky, its engines roaring, leaving Earth behind. The scavengers wanted nothing more than to escape that cursed place. The man watched from below as the faint rumble reached him through stone and steel. He knew they would spread the word. It did not matter. In fact, perhaps it was better this way. Humanity's return would not be silent. The galaxy needed to remember. The galaxy needed to fear again. He wandered through the chamber, looking at the machines that had kept them alive. Some lights still flickered, some had gone dark forever. Not all pods would open. Some had failed long ago. Yet thousands remained, each carrying a human, each carrying a story. He wondered how many would return. How many warriors? How many builders? How many leaders? He closed his eyes, trying to focus, trying to recall the last moments before sleep. He saw images of a council, voices arguing, decisions being made. They had not chosen sleep out of weakness. They had chosen it because they were too strong. Humanity had ruled once, but they had stepped aside, giving the galaxy time to grow without them. It was mercy. It was patience. But patience had an end. Now, by chance or by fate, the end had come. The man clenched his fists and looked toward the surface. The galaxy above had forgotten. They had crowned themselves kings, masters, rulers. They believed humans were only stories. That belief was about to shatter. For the first time in 50,000 years, a human stood awake on Earth. For the first time in ages, the galaxy would hear a word it had long erased from its memory. Humanity. The scavengers thought they had escaped, but their message would spread like fire. Empires would argue, fleets would prepare, and fear would grow. And somewhere in the dark of space, whispers would begin. The humans have returned. The scavenger ship cut through the darkness of space, its engines burning harder than ever before. Inside, the crew sat in silence, their long arms trembling, their wide eyes staring ahead. None of them spoke at first. They were afraid that even words might give life to what they had seen. Finally, the leader whispered in a broken voice. "We have to tell them. The galaxy must know." When their ship reached a trade station orbiting a dying star, they wasted no time. They went straight to the market halls where thousands of species gathered. Traders, soldiers, and thieves filled the air with noise. The scavengers shouted above them all, their voices frantic. "Humans are alive." The crowd laughed. "Old myths," they said. "Nothing more." But the scavengers insisted, describing the man they had seen, the strength he carried, the way he destroyed their weapons with his bare hands. A silence slowly fell over the station. Laughter turned into murmurs. Murmurs became whispers. And within hours, messages spread from ship to ship, world to world. Humans have returned. In the core systems of the great alien empires, leaders dismissed the story. They called it a lie, a trick made for attention. But among the older races, those who remembered fragments of the past, fear began to rise. They had always told their young ones stories of the old rulers, warnings of the species that once controlled everything. Stories of humans. Now those old fears burned again. Across distant space, hidden from alien eyes, Earth remained quiet. The first awakened human, alone among countless sleeping pods, began to explore further into the vault. His body grew stronger with each hour as he shook off the weight of centuries. He discovered armories filled with weapons unlike any used in the galaxy now. He found chambers filled with libraries of knowledge, glowing archives that told the history of humanity. He stood before one of the ancient screens, watching as it showed the rise of mankind, the spread across stars, and then the decision to sleep. A voice from the past echoed in the chamber. "This is not our end. This is our choice. One day we will wake. And when we wake, the galaxy will remember who we are." The man clenched his jaw, his heart steady with purpose. He was not just awake for himself. He was awake for all of them. Then, one night inside the chamber, another pod stirred. The lights on its surface flickered, the glass cracked, and steam hissed into the air. The man rushed to it, his eyes fixed on the faint shadow moving inside. Slowly, the pod opened. A woman stepped out, coughing, shivering, but alive. Her eyes met his. She looked at him with confusion, then recognition. "You too," she whispered. He nodded. "We are back." She was not weak. Her body quickly adjusted, and strength filled her arms. Memories returned to her as well, fragments of battle and leadership. She was not just any human. She had once been a commander. The two stood together, side by side, in the silence of the vault. And then another pod opened. Then another. Slowly, across the chamber, lights flickered to life. One by one, more humans returned. Men and women, young and old, soldiers and thinkers. Their voices echoed in the chamber, soft at first, then louder. Humanity was waking. Far away, the whispers across the galaxy grew louder too. On a great alien capital, a council of leaders gathered. They spoke with heavy voices, their eyes filled with worry. "If this is true, we must act. Humans cannot be allowed to rise again." One by one, They remembered the stories their ancestors had told, stories of human wars, human victories, human dominance. No empire had ever stood against them and survived. The council ordered fleets to prepare. Ships with thousands of weapons began to gather. Their mission was clear. Find Earth. Destroy whatever remains. End the humans before they awaken in full. Back on Earth, the awakened humans discovered their old defenses still stood. Ancient machines hummed to life at their touch. Massive doors shifted, and underground tunnels revealed stockpiles of weapons and ships, hidden and waiting. Though time had passed, the technology of mankind still felt alive, as if it too had only slept. The first man and the commander walked among the others. "We are few now," the commander said, her voice calm but strong. "But we are never few for long." The man nodded. Humanity learns. Humanity adapts. Humanity grows. And they both knew the truth. Even with only a handful of them awake, they were already stronger than most species could imagine. What would happen when thousands woke? When millions returned? The galaxy above was already trembling. Fleets moved. Armies prepared. Leaders argued in fear. But no matter what they did, it was already too late. The age of silence was over. The humans were back, and nothing could stop what was coming. The man looked up, his eyes burning with the weight of destiny. For ages, they had ruled. Then they had chosen to sleep. But now, one by one, the rulers of the galaxy were opening their eyes again. And soon, the stars would belong to them once more. In the cold dark of space, fleets began to gather. Thousands of alien ships moved like swarms of metal insects, engines burning bright as they followed orders from their rulers. Their target was simple: Earth. Destroy it before the humans returned in full. Commanders of the fleets laughed with sharp voices. Humans were myths, weak creatures of the past. But behind their laughter was fear. Too many whispers had spread. Too many stories were told in hushed voices. Stories that said humans had once been unstoppable. They had no wish to test if the stories were true. They would rather crush the threat before it had time to rise. On Earth, the awakened humans felt the shift before they even saw it. The commander stood before the glowing screens of the ancient vault, her eyes fixed on distant signals. "They are coming." The first man nodded, his jaw set. Then let them come. They had only a small group awake. Dozens, not thousands. Yet the vault still held machines, weapons, and ships designed for war. The humans worked together with speed, their hands moving as if they had never forgotten. Old engines roared back to life. Cannons hummed. Small warships rose from underground hangars, dust falling from their wings as they powered up after 50,000 years of silence. The aliens expected ruins. They expected weakness. Instead, when their fleets dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Earth, they were met with a sight that froze their blood. Ships lifted from the surface, sleek and sharp, glowing with energy unlike anything the galaxy now used. The lead alien commander barked orders. Fire. The sky lit with beams of energy and storms of missiles. Alien firepower rained down on Earth. But the human ships moved with speed and precision, weaving through the chaos. Their weapons struck back. One alien cruiser exploded in fire, torn apart in seconds. Another broke in two, drifting into the void. On the ground, the commander watched with a steady gaze. They underestimated us. The first man stood beside her, gripping the controls of an ancient defense battery. His voice was calm but hard. Let them learn. As the battle grew, the difference became clear. The aliens fought with numbers, but their ships lacked the strength of human design. Humanity had built for war in ages past, and no time had stolen that power. Each human ship cut through the enemy like a blade through cloth. Yet the aliens kept coming. For every ship destroyed, more appeared. Their fleet surrounded Earth like a storm. Explosions lit the sky, shaking the ground below. The humans knew they could not win forever. Not yet. They were too few. In the chaos, the commander gave a new order. Do not fight to destroy. Fight to show them. Her words carried weight. Every human pilot understood. They did not need to win the battle. They only needed to remind the galaxy of who they were. And so they fought with fury, striking fast and retreating, crippling enemy ships before vanishing into the shadows. Alien commanders shouted in confusion. This was no battle they understood. It was not conquest. It was a message. The first man stood on the surface as the sky burned above him. He raised his weapon and fired into the heavens, his blasts tearing through enemy landing craft that tried to descend. Around him, other awakened humans fought as well, their strength terrifying the ground troops that managed to land. One human could fight 10 aliens and stand tall. Some aliens fled before even firing a shot. Panic spread across the fleets. This was not supposed to happen. This was supposed to be easy. But nothing about humans was easy. After hours of fighting, the alien commanders made their choice. Retreat. They had seen enough. Too many ships lost. Too many soldiers broken. The fleets turned, engines burning, leaving Earth behind. Silence returned to the sky, broken only by the smoke of wreckage drifting in orbit. The humans stood together, weary but unbroken. The commander's voice carried across the chamber as she looked at the others. The galaxy knows now. The first man's eyes burned with quiet fire. Yes. They know. Far across the stars, reports spread like wildfire. Entire fleets had been repelled by a handful of awakened humans. Leaders who had once mocked the stories now sat in silence, their faces pale. Fear grew deeper. If this was what a few could do, what would happen when all of them woke? The galaxy began to whisper louder than ever before. For ages, others had ruled. But now, the old masters were stirring. Humanity had shown its hand, and it was only the beginning. In the shadows of the vault, more pods began to flicker with light. The humans were waking faster now, their time of silence ending. The first man walked among them, his voice low but strong. Rise. The stars wait for us. And above them all, the wreckage of alien fleets drifted like broken warnings. The galaxy had tested humanity once more, and humanity had answered. The rulers of the past were returning, and nothing in the universe could stop what was coming next. The galaxy was no longer calm. Messages flew from system to system, faster than light, carrying one name. Humans. Entire fleets had been broken at Earth. Commanders returned in shame, their armies shattered by a handful of awakened beings. The rulers of alien empires argued in their grand halls, their voices heavy with fear. They are too few, one leader insisted. We must strike again before more wake. Another shook his head. No. If a few can defeat fleets, what happens when thousands rise? Old stories returned to life. Across worlds, alien children whispered in the dark, repeating the tales their ancestors had once told. Tales of a species that ruled with iron will and endless fire. A species that built wonders and destroyed empires in the same breath. A species that vanished by choice. On Earth, the vault of humanity glowed with light. More pods opened each day. Men and women walked out, their eyes sharp, their minds clear. Strength filled their bodies as if the long sleep had only sharpened them. The commander watched them gather, her voice calm but firm. We do not return as victims. We return as rulers. Still, a question burned among the newly awakened. Why had their people chosen sleep in the first place? Why had they left the galaxy to others? The first man searched for answers. He moved deeper into the vault, beyond the chambers of pods and weapons. There he found a sealed door, ancient locks glowing faintly. At his touch, the locks opened, as if they had waited only for him. Inside was a chamber unlike the rest. Screens covered the walls, showing frozen images of the past. A single machine sat at the center, its voice old and tired, but still alive. You have awakened, it said. Then you are ready to know. The man listened in silence. The machine began to tell the story. Humanity had once ruled the stars, greater than any empire now alive. They had weapons that split planets, ships that bent the fabric of space, armies that no number could resist. No species dared to challenge them. But with power came danger. Humanity grew restless. Some wished for endless war, others for endless peace. The galaxy trembled under their rule. And then came the choice. The leaders of mankind saw that their own strength might one day destroy everything. So they chose a different path. The machine's voice was steady, but heavy with memory. They placed themselves into cryo-sleep, not from weakness, but from mercy. They gave the galaxy time to grow, time to breathe without them. They believed that when the time was right, they would wake again, stronger, wiser, ready to guide the stars once more. The man stood in silence, the weight of the truth pressing on him. They had not been victims of history. They had been its authors. Behind him, the commander entered, her eyes fixed on the screens. She listened too, and when the story ended, she nodded slowly. We stepped aside so others could rise. And now those others think themselves rulers. The man turned to her, his voice steady. Then it is time to remind them. Above Earth, wreckage from the first battle still drifted, silent warnings in the void. Across the galaxy, alien leaders studied those images with dread. Some planned to form alliances against the humans. Others argued for surrender before war began. But all of them feared the same thing. That the humans were no longer sleeping. Whispers became roars in the dark markets and grand courts alike. Some called humans demons. Others called them gods. No one dared speak of them as myths anymore. Meanwhile, on Earth, the awakened humans gathered in the great hall of the vault. Fires burned in their eyes as the commander addressed them. We did not sleep to hide. We slept to prepare. We are the first, but not the last. Soon millions will wake. Her words filled the chamber with strength. The people raised their heads, their voices rising together. Humanity had no empire yet, no fleets of millions, no armies across the stars. But they had something far greater. Purpose. The first man clenched his fists as he looked upward, past the ground, past the ruins of Earth, toward the galaxy waiting above. He could almost hear the fear of the alien rulers, feel the weight of their panic. And in his heart, he knew the truth. The galaxy thought humanity had vanished. But humanity had only waited. And waiting had made them stronger. Soon, the stars would see not just battles, but a return of destiny. Soon, the rulers of old would take their place again. The hidden truth was no longer hidden. The humans had chosen their long sleep. And now they had chosen to awaken. The galaxy trembled on the edge of a new era. One ruled not by chance, not by fragile empires, but by the will of mankind. The galaxy held its breath. For weeks, the alien rulers argued, their fleets restless, their armies uneasy. Fear spread faster than any fire. Every whisper carried the same truth. The humans were back. On Earth, the vaults thundered with life. More pods opened each day. Rows upon rows of men and women stepped out, coughing at first, then standing tall, their eyes sharp, their hearts steady. Soldiers, thinkers, builders, leaders, each one carried memories of a time when humanity had ruled the stars. Now those memories stirred again, burning like old embers turning to flame. The commander stood before them, her voice echoing across the chamber. We are awake. We are not broken. We are not lost. We are mankind, and we return not as shadows, but as rulers. Her words shook the hall. The humans raised their fists, their voices thundering together. For the first time in ages, Earth did not sleep. It roared. Above the planet, the wreckage of the alien fleets still drifted, silent monuments to human strength. The survivors had carried the story across the stars, and the story had grown. Entire systems now believed war was inevitable. Some empires tried to prepare their defenses. Others bent their knees in secret, ready to surrender before a single human ship arrived. The first man walked through the vault, his eyes on the glowing screens. The ancient machines now mapped the galaxy, showing where fleets gathered, where whispers turned to fear, where rulers trembled behind their thrones. He spoke to the others. They wait for us. They fear us. And they are right to fear. In hidden hangars, ships of human design rose again. Their black hulls shone with strange light, built from metals long forgotten by the galaxy. Their engines burned hotter, their weapons sharper, their systems faster than anything aliens now possessed. They had been asleep, but their machines had not aged. Humanity's technology was as deadly as the day they had closed their eyes. Soon, the first human fleet launched. 100 ships tore through the sky, breaking the silence of Earth. The galaxy felt it like a heartbeat, a pulse returning to life. The aliens watched in terror as human fleets appeared on their borders. But the humans did not conquer at once. They moved like hunters, striking where needed, destroying fleets that dared challenge them, then vanishing into the dark. Each strike was a message. The rulers are back. On one alien capital, the council gathered in secret. Their voices were desperate. We cannot fight them. We cannot stop them. They will take everything. An elder among them shook his head. No. They will not take. They will reclaim. There is a difference. The words hung heavy. They all knew it was true. Humanity did not fight for scraps. Humanity fought for destiny. Meanwhile, on Earth, millions of pods now flickered with light. Humanity's great army was awakening in full. Scientists awoke beside soldiers. Leaders awoke beside engineers. Their knowledge returned with them, brighter than any star. The vaults that had slept for 50,000 years now opened like flowers in bloom. The commander stood on the surface of Earth, watching as the first fleet vanished into the void. Her voice was steady, but carried power. For ages, others ruled. They built their empires, they crowned themselves kings. Now their time is over. Beside her, the first man clenched his fists. We return not to ask. We return to claim. And in that moment, the sky above Earth seemed to tremble. For across the galaxy, humans were no longer myth. They were no longer whispers in old books. They were real, awake, and unstoppable. World by world, species remembered the old stories. Stories of human wars, human victories, human fire. And now those stories were no longer past. They were present. The galaxy would never be the same. The final message carried through every channel, every shadowed corner, every fearful heart. For ages, they ruled. Then they slept. And now, the humans had returned. And this time, they would never sleep again.